On Christmas Eve, 1971, a 17-year-old girl looked out of a plane window over the Peruvian Amazon and saw a blinding white flash on the right wing. The next thing she knew, the aircraft was gone. The seats around her were gone. Her mother, sitting beside her a moment before, was gone. She was outside, in the open sky, 3 kilometers above the rainforest, still strapped to her seat. Julianne Coep fell over 3,000 meters into the jungle. And she survived. But the fall was only the beginning. Stay to the end, because what saved her in the following 11 days was something her parents had given her years before. Julianne was flying home for Christmas with her mother, from Lima to the research station in the rainforest where her parents, both famous zoologists, studied wildlife. They had wanted an earlier flight. Every seat was taken. The airline, LANSA, had a terrible reputation. Her father had begged them to avoid it. But it was Christmas, and it was the only plane. 25 minutes after takeoff, LANSA Flight 508 flew directly into a black wall of thunderstorm. Passengers screamed as the aircraft bucked in the turbulence. Luggage burst from the racks. Then lightning struck the fuel tank in the right wing. At around 3,200 meters, the plane simply came apart in the air. What happened next still fascinates aviation scientists. Julianne, alone, still belted in her row of 3 seats, fell spinning through the open sky. She remembers the jungle below rotating toward her, looking, in her words, like broccoli. Then she passed out. The seat row is believed to have spun like a maple seed, breaking the fall. A thunderstorm updraft may have slowed her further. And the canopy of the rainforest, 40 meters of layered branches and vines, caught her like a net. She woke on the jungle floor the next morning. A broken collarbone, a gash in her arm and leg, one eye swollen shut, a concussion. Alive. Of the 91 people on board, she was the only one who would leave that forest. Now consider her situation. 17 years old. Injured. 1 shoe. A bag of sweets that she found in the wreckage as her only food. No map, no machete, no matches. Around her, hundreds of kilometers of the densest wilderness on Earth. But Julianne had grown up in that forest. Her parents' research station had been her childhood playground. She knew the jungle was not a monster movie. The animals that could kill her mostly wanted to avoid her. The real killers were infection, starvation, and despair. And she remembered her father's rule, the one lesson he had drilled into her. If you're ever lost in the jungle, find water and follow it downstream. Small streams lead to bigger ones. Rivers lead to people. So she walked for days, following a trickle that became a stream that became a river. She waded in the water itself, because riverbeds are open paths through jungle too thick to cross. The wound in her arm grew infected and worse. Flies had laid eggs in it, and maggots were eating the flesh. She heard rescue planes far above, unable to see her through the canopy. She passed wreckage and bodies, checking each one, terrified of finding her mother. By day 10, she could barely stand. Sunburned, starving, half blind. And then, on the riverbank, she saw something impossible. A boat and a path, and a small hut with a palm roof. She poured gasoline from a barrel into her wound, a trick from her father, and picked dozens of maggots out with a splinter. Then she laid down and waited. The next day, 3 forest workers stepped into the hut and froze, staring at her. She introduced herself in Spanish and said the sentence they could not believe. "I'm a girl from the LANSA crash." They fed her, treated her wounds, and took her 7 hours downriver to a pilot who flew her to a hospital. 11 days after falling out of the sky, Julianne was back among the living. Julianne later became a zoologist like her parents and returned to study the very jungle that had taken everything from her. The rescue teams used her directions to find the crash site and the victims, including her mother. Scientists still debate the physics of her survival, but the deeper answer is simpler. Knowledge saved her. A single sentence, "Follow the water," planted in a child's mind years before it was needed. If stories of impossible survival move you, subscribe. The world is full of people who should not be alive, and each of them has a lesson stitched into their story.